Tonight is Jake Rattlesnake.
I like to go by Lord Rattlesnake or Lord Jake, most base chat of all the lands.
You don't have an argument. Present your paper or shut up.
Everyone's view is definitely inherently biased. So this is when debate becomes very interesting.
I can hear what you're saying, but then I can see that you're dressed as a cat.
I'm a dog.
You said you like to go play fetch.
I wolf, yes.
So how does that tie into your relationship? Like, what are you looking for if you're a dog? I think that John Jr. will be president one day. If I was a gambling man, I'd put money on that.
Founder of Rattlesnake TV, Jake. Man, I really appreciate it, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Rattlesnake TV. We've got a very, very special interview today. We've got the one and only Jesse Lee Peterson. Now, this is our third time collaborating. One time I was on Jesse's show remotely. Another time I went down to the studio, met him in person. The team was absolutely unbelievable down there. Very welcoming, and I still keep in touch with a lot of the team today. So good people down there at the Fallen State. Jesse, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks for being back on with you, Jake. Good to see you again. Are you a boxer?
Yes. Yeah, I was back in the day, but not anymore.
Oh, you're not? Why not anymore?
Well, because I need to use my brain for various different reading and writing and speaking endeavors. So boxing, unless you're getting paid a lot of money for it, it has a lot of implications in the long term that you don't really want to go down. Yeah, I had a few concussions when I was a kid as well. So when I was like a teenager, so I didn't want to go too deep into it. Do you ever do any combat sports?
Not boxing. No, I haven't. Not real tough stuff like that.
Yeah. What about on the streets of South Central LA? Or
I had to fight my way over there. No, I'm joking. When I was living in South Central LA, I first moved to LA from Alabama. I lived in South Central LA, and it wasn't as bad as it is now. Matter of fact, when I first moved there, a lot of white people lived in that area, on the street I was living at and everything. That changed over the years. And by the time it became really rough, I moved more west, away from South Central.
Interesting. So I thought like in the 90s and stuff, it was really, really bad because it was when rap music was sort of starting and blowing up. But you think it's worse now in those areas?
Yeah. Really? It was bad back then too, the 90s, but it's even worse now. And especially since they took away bail bond, they defunded the police, and they really just told the people you can go crazy. And then they have a bunch of illegal aliens over there. And a lot of those gang members came in from Mexico and other places. So it's just gotten worse now. It's really bad now.
Yeah, that's bad. So what do you think about Trump's second term in? What's your report card so far?
Well, number one, they call him amazing. What manner of man is this? The wind and the sea obeys him. They call him king. They have king rallies in recognition of Donald Trump. Some people call him daddy. I call him the great white hope, and he is doing an amazing job so far, Jake. I can't believe that we finally got a president in the White House that is really, really fighting to protect the people. He's fighting for the people. And in spite of all the oppositions that are coming against him, the Democratic Party and liberal media, he just won't slow down. And he's doing an amazing job. I hope he runs again.
I think he's doing a great job too. I mean, I think a lot of people are quick to chuck him under the bus when something goes wrong, and they'll sort of like follow the tide when there's something happening in the news that's really anti-Trump, whether it be even all of these ICE protests. I see some people on the conservative side saying, well, this is really bad having ICE officers come to Home Depots. And it's like they're illegals. They've illegally come into the country. Like they need to be arrested, and sometimes you need to use force to arrest somebody. And then there's also the Epstein files. There's no proof whatsoever that Trump is in the Epstein files, but people saying that he must be in the Epstein files. I don't see the justification for it. So you come to Australia and you realize how terrible the politics is over here. You don't have anybody even close to what Trump is doing. Ireland has just elected some sort of radical, like free Palestine feminist, and they're fucked. And America has based Trump in, and they still complain. You know?
Yeah. There is the thing I like about Trump, he's doing what's right because it's the right thing to do. And I believe that he realized that you can't really rely on people to always be with you because people are very emotional. They're very angry or resentful. They're very insecure. They don't have their own mindset. So as soon as you say something or do something they don't agree with, because they're so judgmental, they'll turn on you just like that. But it seems as though Donald Trump is not concerned about that. His concern is to make America great again, safe again. And it doesn't make sense that this man is going out into the land and he's picking up illegal aliens, people who have broken the law to be here. Whether they have a family or not, they still broke the law. Doing it, and there are people who are mad about that, and it's only because they just don't like Donald Trump. Even though they pretend to like him, only like him if he's doing exactly what they think he should do. But if he deviates, they turn against him. So I don't think Donald Trump really care about that or concerned about it.
Now, one person that did rival Donald Trump or try to rival Donald Trump was the person who you called Yee. Yay. And he's been coming to your church recently. I was messaging Hassan the other day, and Hassan was saying how he brought down Ye to the church, and I was watching the clips as well. Tell me about your interactions with Ye and what your sort of take on his situation was.
Well, when he came, I didn't realize that he was coming. When I looked around, he was there in the meeting already, but I was glad to see him, as I would anyone, because I know that all people have issues with anger and emotions. And so I was glad for him to be there to hear other people going through the same thing that he's gone through and how to overcome that. And to know that anyone that has anger is evil and there's no love in anger, and that you can't overcome it. So when I was interacting with him, it was though I was just talking to anyone that's want to overcome, because he said that, and if I remember correctly, he can relate to what a lot of what he heard about anger and how to overcome. And so I thought it was really good for him, and I really wish him well with it. And then we interact later in the private conversation was amazing too. So I hope that he stay with it and to work on himself to overcome that anger. I hope he stay with that.
Yeah. And is he still coming to the church, and do you think he'll be a regular down there?
I don't know. I just have a wait and see. For his sake, I hope he will. But just kind of wait and see. I kind of just treat it the way people come and they go. So I just kind of watch people come and go in and out of your life. And I haven't really thought about that, but I do wish him well. I do believe that he is working on himself now, because we went over a lot of stuff when we talked in private, that hopefully he continue. I know that he's traveling a lot, and he went out of town right after that. But I don't know, man. If he come back, great. But we'll see what happens.
But just like you look at a guy like, Kanye West, and he's one of the biggest mega stars in the entire world. And he would have lived in this ecosystem his entire career, where everybody would kiss his ass, basically, until recently, where everybody around him would be a yes man, where it's a very, very materialistic culture where you need to have all the ice on your wrist and you need to have all the baddest bitches and all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, how does one come back from that? Like, because oftentimes you see these people, they have to hit rock bottom before they eventually actually find God, or they find some sort of a deeper purpose in life, because materialism in and of itself is a void that you can't actually ever really find any sort of grace with.
You're right. The only way that anyone will overcome that, they got to begin to know themselves. They have to take a look and be aware of what's happening inside of themselves so they can see what's going on. And once they see what's going on, then they would start to overcome. The problem is when you are famous like that, and you seem like you have everything and everybody is catering to you, it's difficult for someone to really take a look at themselves to see, even though when the crowd is gone and the lights are out, they cry at night because when you're alone, reality sets in. And most people can't handle that reality. They have to always be putting on a showcase personality in order to keep the thrill going. But if they were to just pause and start looking at themselves to get an understanding from within, they will start to overcome. But it's difficult. They will really have to force themselves to stay away from so much attention and just don't accept people catering to you as a good thing, because it is keeping you from overcoming the fallen state, the anger.
And so when you are speaking to him, I noticed that you're asking a lot of these questions, and you do this with a lot of the different people you interview. And for me, it's a bit confusing sometimes to watch the line of questioning. For example, when you say, "Do you know God? Do you have anger? Do you know yourself?" And I think I kind of know what you're getting at there. You're trying to ask people questions that they maybe haven't thought about before on a deeper level rather than a surface level. But explain to me a little bit about what you actually mean when you ask these questions.
I don't mean anything, but what I'm trying to do is to encourage them to really think about what they really have heard in life and what they really know, to see if they really know what they believe that they know. You know, a lot of people believe so many different things about God and about life and about certain things that they have been taught, either from their parents and from their schools and from preachers and others. And those things are not working for them in their lives, but they won't even pause. Even the Christians or the Jews or the Allah or Abba people, the Catholic.
The what people?
You know,
Allah
Allah or Abba people. They don't they don't really, most people don't examine themselves to see if what they know to be true, do they know it for themselves or do they just believe it because someone said it? So when I ask those questions, I hope for them that they will really examine themselves to see what they know. For example, most people or a lot of people believe that they believe in God. They really believe it. They think that when they're praying to God. And they think because they read the Bible, they know the scriptures, and they can quote them back, they believe that they believe in God. But all they have are ideas about God. And ideas about God is not knowing God. Read a book about God is not knowing God. But they want to examine to see, do I really know God? Or do I just believe it? And if I know God, why am I so miserable? Why do I have fear and doubt and loneliness, suicidal thoughts, and all these different identities that I identify? They won't question it because the preacher or someone told them, "Don't worry about it. You're just a human. You'll be happy when you go to heaven." But they don't realize that you can have perfect peace right here on earth. You don't have to wait to die. And so I try to ask the questions in a way where they would do self-examination so that they can start to overcome the illusion, the knowledge of what is right, and connect with what is right. But most people, they really don't know themselves at all.
So for example, I haven't been a Christian for as long as a lot of the people who would be watching right now, and definitely not yourself either. But one of the things that I've focused on over the last few years is really understanding, for example, logic and the ideas and the arguments for God. And I think that that's what you're kind of referring to. It's like that I can understand the things that I've consumed, that I've been taught, But in terms of like an interpersonal relationship with God, I actually met a priest called Josiah Trenum, who's from California as well. And he gave me this advice. He said, you're all up here. You know a lot of the logic about it and you can make arguments. But in terms of here, in terms of the actual living out the life and going to church and prayer and these sorts of things, you need to work on that. So that was the advice that he gave me. Is that what you're sort of getting at in terms of knowing God, taking it from the brain to the heart, or something else?
When you hear the knowledge of God, knowledge is good to hear about him, but you're not supposed to hold on to the knowledge, because knowledge will keep you away from understanding. Knowledge deceive you to make you think you know God because you know about him. But if you hear the knowledge and let it go in and out, in one ear and out the other one, and keep your glass empty, then knowledge, the understanding will come, and it will reveal to you God, the truth, and how to really overcome.
But can you know without knowledge, though? How can you have understanding if you don't initially have knowledge?
As long as you hold on to knowledge, you would never know God. You would just have the knowledge about God, and you would be stuck, and nothing would change. But you can only know God with understanding. You have to have, otherwise you're not going to know him.
What's the difference between knowledge and understanding exactly?
Knowledge is about thinking. It's about ideas. It's about thought. Understanding, there is no thinking. There are no ideas. There are no plans. There are no wants or desires. It's just life. And you see, it's like the light unto your feet. You just see how to live right in the present without thinking about the past or future or any what if. To a no thinking life is a perfect way to live. A thinking life is a knowledge life, and you suffer, and that there's no life in that at all. It's only death.
But if I'm speaking to somebody else and we both say I understand God and I understand God, and my understanding of God is that it's Allahu Akbar people, and the other person's understanding of God is the Christian God. How do we know who understands that, like whose understanding is correct?
When you walk by the light, when you walk and stay present instead of in your head thinking about the past or the future, or you want this and you want that, you think you know what you want, you're going to know without even trying to know if another person know God or not. And they would know if you know. They would see that. You would see it without your effort. It'll be clear. And you would never argue with another person about God anyway. God is not created for you to argue about him. Either you know him or you don't. Either you love your thrills or you want to overcome your thrills. But you would never try to prove God to anyone.
So you don't think there's a room for debating in terms of Christian apologetics?
There's a room for discussion as we are now, but there's never room for debating God, because you can't prove God to another person. You can't convince a person that God exists, because if you do and they believe it because you said it, they're going to still be stuck with knowledge, and they're going to believe that God exists because someone said it, not because they see it for themselves.
I understand that there's a difference, obviously, in terms of actual knowledge, in terms of head knowledge, and in terms of being studious about it, and then in terms of experience. However, for me, for example, one of the reasons why I wasn't a Christian earlier, or why I never sort of lent into Christianity and why I thought was stupid, because I used to work at a Christian organization for a few years. And I was one of these like atheists saying, oh, you believe in a sky day, and saying all of these ridiculous things. Nobody ever had an answer for me. Right. So I would say, you really believe that this guy walked on water? You really believe he did all these miracles? You really believe this guy rose from the dead and that this happened 2,000 years ago? And you just sort of base your whole life on that. And people would say, yeah. And I'd be like, why? Give me a justification. And nobody could ever provide me with a justification. So I never went into it. But then a little bit later in life, I met my friend Steve Shavura. He's a very prominent Australian historian. I respected him a lot. And I was asking him, what do you think it takes for a young man to live a righteous life? And he said to me, follow the work of Jesus Christ. And I was a bit taken aback by that, because I was like, this guy's really smart and he's telling me to look into the Christian stuff. So then I started looking into it. And then I had a few more Christians come into my life who I respected, and they would start, telling me about Christianity, I eventually went to church. So for me, the knowledge was the conduit to eventually really sort of taking Christianity more seriously in more of a faith way and an understanding way. So don't you think that knowledge can be important in terms of getting people to lean in?
Well, knowledge is good in that we're like communicating now with knowledge. We're talking about this, and this is knowledge of God, that he does exist, right? There is a God. But you should not hold on to what is being said. It should just come and go so that understanding can come. And understanding and knowledge are not going to stay, they can't live together. And so you have to let it go and don't understand that. And I think, well, not I think, you are fortunate that you're not a Christian, because God has nothing to do with Christianity. He's not in Christianity at all. God is not in religion at all. And so a lot of people get stuck with religion. If you ask me what religion do I would be a part of, I'm a Christian. And if I have to tell you something, right? But if you want to know God, you cannot identify with anything or anyone. As a matter of fact, do you want to know God?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
The way to know God is to never think about God. Stop thinking about him, because thinking about him is keeping you away from knowing him. And when you're thinking about him, all you're doing is thinking about what you learned about him, what you heard about him, the good feelings that come when you think about it. But all it's doing is just keeping you away from him. But when you don't think about him, you shall know him. Thinking about him is keeping him away from you.
Okay. So do you what? No. So Jesse, do you believe then do you believe that Jesus Christ was God?
Was God?
Yes.
No, he was, and he is the Son of God.
Right. So
He and his Father are one. His Father sent him here on earth so that he can make a sacrifice so that all who want it will receive eternal life. But he is the Son, he's not the Father.
Right. So you don't believe that Jesus Christ ever claimed to be God?
He never claimed to be God. The people claim that he was God, but he never claimed to be God. It's like the people called Trump king, but Trump never said he was king. They call him king, but when they write history, they're going to lie and say that Trump called himself a king. Christ never called himself a king. Matter of fact, Christ said that don't worship me. Why are you doing this? It's not me. It's not me doing the work. It's the Spirit of the Father that's in me doing the work. Greater works that what I'm doing that you shall do. Why would God tell you that you could do greater works than him? You know what I'm saying? And Jesus made that clear. But the people, because they're always looking for a hero, they're always looking for a ruler, they call him king, they call him God, but he never called himself that at all.
So in terms of, I'm not going to argue with you about your theology, but so in terms of the Trinity, you believe that they're the same essence. You have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but you believe that the Father is the Son actually comes from the Father, and the Father is above the Son. They have a different essence, or
I know for a fact, and without a doubt, that Jesus is the Son of God with God's Spirit in him. I know without a doubt, and you will find this out when you stop thinking, that we have a teacher in us, and that teacher has the Spirit of God that teaches us all things without us having to be taught by someone else or learn by someone else. It teaches us all things, but it can't do it until you stop trusting the intellect, until you stop trusting thoughts. All thoughts are all lies all the time about anything. And the teacher would take over and he would teach and reveal all things to you. He's a teacher that's sent to us by God, but he is not God.
Interesting. I mean, I guess
God's nature, though. He
Yeah.
has perfect love. He's a perfect teacher.
I mean, it's interesting because last thing I guess on this whole thinking thing, we could go all day about this, but I'll wrap it up here. Before, when I asked you about why you asked those questions, what I got from that is that you were essentially saying that people don't understand why they know what they know. I guess we were talking about like epistemology there. People don't understand the knowledge that they have. They don't understand why they think that or how they got that knowledge or anything like that. So you're asking questions to make them sort of think a little bit deeper about the things that they know. And therefore, that would cause them to think more about the knowledge that they have, to ask meta questions about the knowledge. So that seems like an exercise in knowledge to me. But at the same time, you're saying stop thinking. So I just like I don't know how I can quite marry those two things.
When people examine themselves to really see what's going on with self, they're going to realize that they don't have perfect peace. Knowing God has not worked for them. Everything they've asked God for was never from God, because it's always end up not being what they thought that they wanted. It's never perfect. And so they got to realize, you know what? I haven't even been praying to God. I've been asking Satan, thinking of him to God. They're going to get to see what's going on with them rather than thinking about what's going on with them. There's a light inside of us all. And when you overcome the darkness of thoughts, the light will shine and it will show you everything about you and about the world around you, about other people. But as long as you're thinking, though, you're never going to see that. And so when I have people ask questions or point out things, I'm doing it in a way where the light will come on for them too. The moment they pause and question, oh yeah, is that true or not? The light will come on and the light will take over if they stay with it.
Okay, well, at the end of the interview,
what would happen if you never thought of you again?
What would happen if I never thought of me again?
Yes.
I guess you'd be a very selfless person. You'd probably go into a life of reflection about external things, I guess.
I'm sorry?
I guess you'd go into a life of reflection about external things.
Meaning what?
It means you'd be thinking about the other and you'd be thinking about external forces. But then I guess a lot of the time when people do various bits of charity and everything, they get criticized because they're like, well, you're only doing it because you're trying to like feel good about yourself. So I don't know if there's ever a way in which you can do things that isn't thinking about yourself, because we're self-centered people.
But people do things. People, intellectual people, whether Bible intellect or regular school intellect, human beings only do things for themselves. They never do it for anyone else. It's all about self. And that's why I asked, what would happen if you stop thinking of yourself? And it would be amazing. So you think that if you stop thinking about yourself, you become external?
Well, I think the answer was essentially that I don't know if that's actually possible. And I think that like the hypothetical actually has to exist within the realms of possibility. I'm trying to think if it's actually possible to stop thinking about yourself, because even if I'm trying to stop thinking about myself, I'd still be thinking about how I want to stop thinking about myself, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. Won't you give it a try and see what happens? Stop thinking about yourself. Who are you?
I am Jake of Rattlesnake TV, here with Jesse Lee Peterson right now in this fantastic interview.
That's who you are?
Hey, I'm asking the questions here, Jesse. None of this.
So you told me your name and you told me what you do and what you're doing, but you didn't tell me who you are.
Well, it's interesting though, because I think it's an interesting point you bring up when you talk about who are you and asking about oneself, because in the modern world, we do kind of live in this ecosystem where everybody is very sort of atomized, if you will, and everybody's very individualistic. And if you ask somebody who they are these days, it's like, well, I'm Jake, I've got this cool YouTube channel, and I interview cool people like Jesse, and that's sort of who you are. But it's not who you are, because if you take all of that away, then I guess you have to ask the deeper question about who you really are. Whereas back in the day, it might have been like, I'm Jake, the third of my name. My father was this, his father was that. I live in this community. I'm from this land. So I guess there were more external principles that would come into it. But I'm
people
not really sure
always
what you
tell
mean
me
by it.
what they tell me their names, they tell me what they do, they tell me what they have, married or children, but they never tell me who they are. And I ask them, what is it like living and not knowing who you are? Because you're not your name, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not your wife if you had a wife, you're not your children, you're not a husband. Those are just titles, right? But who you are, who are you? And
When you say that, though, are you talking about if you took away everything that could be taken away, for example? So if you took away everything that you've gained in terms of your family and your name and all these things that are essentially social constructs, and they could hypothetically be taken away. You strip all of that back there, then who are you? Is that what you're saying?
when you take away the idea that those things are who you are, what you do, where you live. Excuse me, man, I've been talking all day here. Hold on.
No problem. It's actually a good time for it.
When the people think that what they have, what they do, what color they are, or whatever, they think that that's who they are. They think that they're lonely. They think that they're depressed. They think that they have anxiety. They think they have worry. They have fear. They think that they are those things, and it's not them at all, but they have identified with it, and they call those things themselves. And as long as they believe that that's who they are, that they're depressed and they're jealous, they're revengeful and all that, they would never know who they are, and they would never know God, because they've already identified with false identities, illusions. That's why they are delusional, because they have identified with illusion, and everything they believe is not real. There's nothing about them that's real. It's all an illusion.
Okay. Well, I mean, towards the end of this interview, I do want to do a quick fire question, and ask you some of these questions and just get your response. But
Okay.
moving on from this, I would say that, Jesse, out of all of the people on the internet, and I don't know if this is intentional, I'm pretty convinced that it is intentional. You've got to be the king of trolling. Do you know what trolling is, Jesse?
I do. I've heard it so many times now, but that's not my intent. I don't try to troll. I really want to point people back to where perfect peace is, so they can have an amazing life. But if you don't love the truth, if you don't want the truth, it would seem like trolling to those who don't want the truth.
And so you've interviewed guys like Destiny and Vouch and all of these sorts of guys, and I always just find it really funny because you're able to put them on their heels, and normally it's questions like, are you alpha male or are you a beta male? that really get these guys. So when you see these sorts of guys, I mean, a lot of people would look at them and think that they've got, no hope. A guy like Destiny, who's like celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and he's just completely off the rails, and he's got all of these problems in his personal life and everything. What's your intention other than to troll a guy like that and to make fun of him? Is there actually an intention for him? What is your intention for a guy like that?
Again, I have no intention. I like talking to people. I like hearing how they see things, their perspective about things, and I don't know. I just enjoy talking to people, but I don't intend to troll them or anything like that. I like having fun with them about excuse me, I like having fun when I say, are you a beta male or alpha male, right? I do that just to have fun, but other than that, I really have no intention at all.
What is an alpha and a beta male?
An alpha male is a male who is awake. They can see. They have perfect peace. A beta male is an emotional male. He's either angry or he's angry, or then he feel good, then he feel angry. He's into his emotions. He's just like his mother. He has not overcome his mother. So a beta male is a person that has not overcome the spirit of the mother. So they act and think and feel like a woman rather than overcoming that. Alpha male is a male who really take a good look at and pay attention to what's happening to self so that they can overcome all of that. And that's what an alpha male does, because the hardest thing, Jake, for a human being to do, male or female, is to look at themselves and see what's happening with self, inside of self. It's the most painful and difficult thing for anyone to do. That's why most people don't do it. But alpha males would do it because they want peace.
It's interesting. I want to introduce you to a term called the sneaky fucker strategy. Okay. And this is not me being crass. This is actually what it's called. It's called the sneaky fucker strategy. It's a zoological term, right? And so you've got animals like the pufferfish and other various different animals in the animal kingdom. And so what will happen is you've got the males in this animal group, and the alpha male phenotype will have all of the women. And then the beta male phenotype, instead of just sort of fading away, what they will do is they will try and make themselves look like the female. And they will try and blend in with the females, and they will try and bypass the gatekeepers, which are the alpha males, so that they can then go and mate with the females. And I think that you see a lot of this in the human species as well. You get a lot of these beta males who will try to start like growing their hair long and start going to like all the protests and wearing the pink pussy hats and these sorts of things, just so that they can maybe eventually end up mating with the females. Have you seen this happen?
I have a lot, all the time. It's called showcase personality. They put on whatever personality they need to put on in order to get with the woman, because they are not strong enough just to approach her and deal with her. And you know what I mean? They have to put on a showcase personality, pretend to be like them, to pretend to be caring and loving and concerned, but it's all a showcase personality. It's not real.
And Jesse, do you have a fear of death?
No, I have zero fear of death.
Why?
Because there is no such thing as death. Death doesn't exist. There's only one death, and that death is of the illusionary life that you live, the false life, the ego life. That's the only death you have to do. Die from the illusion, this false self. There is no death. There's no death. Death has been destroyed. When Christ was here, he took the sting out of death. So death doesn't exist anymore.
And so do you believe that there's life after death?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because you never die. You leave your body, but you never die. So there's no death. Now, the way you leave your body, what's important? Let's say that you leave your body an angry person, male or female, angry, insecure, revengeful, jealous, strife, emotional. The way you drop your body, you're stuck. Because anyone that has anger while they live, they are living in hell right here on earth. And the hell is inside of them. And hell is emotions, so-called good emotion and bad emotion, worries and stress. That's hell. That's all hell is. And then, but when you die, when you drop your body, you're stuck in that and there's no way out. But for now, while you're living, there is a way to overcome hell by getting to know yourself, so you can overcome hell while you live. And if you drop your body with perfect peace, that's just continue. You're now having peace, eternal peace forever. But if you don't, you're stuck in hell for the rest of your life.
And how do you know that you drop your body?
How do you know you drop your body? I don't know. I don't know how you know you dropped it. I just know it won't exist, because the body is made out of the earth anyway, out of dirt, and nothing that you can see is everlasting at all. It all fade away eventually. It goes back to dust.
And you think that the soul is then transported somewhere, or do you think that there's a process, or do you think it's a mystery?
I'm not sure what happens in that case, but I do know that if you drop your body with without anger, resentment, all that, that you will be one with the light, you'll be one with God. And wherever that is, which is above, I believe, you'll be one with him already, because while you're on earth, and if you overcome all that stuff, your ego nature, you've died. Because if you die, you just will continue to be with the Father. You'll be with him outside of your body, you will still be with him. But if you drop your body with anger and darkness, you'll be one with your father, the devil, with evil. That doesn't change.
Do you understand, Jesse, how when you say that you actually don't know these things, though, how one might be like, oh, well, I shouldn't listen to anything that Jesse says, because you'll say, and then I'll say, well, how do you know what you know? And you'll say, I don't know what I know, but I know this. Like, do you understand why people might think, well, I shouldn't listen to Jesse then?
Yeah. This is why when as people hear us speak right now, they should not try to remember these things. They don't need to try to believe me or not believe me. Just let it go in one and out the other. And if you are a man or a woman who really want to overcome evil, you want to come out of your misery, you're sick of your thrills, you want to overcome the thrills of worry and jealousy and revenge and all that, you will overcome, because the light knows who want it. But the light is only going to enter into you if you open yourself up to let it in. But it's not going to interfere with you at all if you're stuck on knowledge and that's all you want. So they don't need to try to believe me or not believe me. Let it go in one ear and out the other.
I often think about this sort of idea in a sense, like, we live in a world right now where we're so distracted all the time. We have got our iPhones that we're on all the time. We've got our devices. We've got our friends that we have to go and see. We've got so much shit to do. We live in this sort of rat race world where we've got to go to work and do all these sorts of things. If you sort of strip that all back, there has to be some sort of a factory settings. There has to be some sort of a place where you could sit in silence and either have peace or pain. Because in that situation, when you don't have any distractions, like if you're in solitary confinement, you're either at peace with yourself or you have immense pain. And I think that that's kind of what I think about when you say these sorts of things, is that true understanding would come in that moment of just pure silence if you removed all of these external factors, which are ultimately they're just of the world, and they're sort of fleeting.
Yeah. If you think that's bad, try sitting alone in a room. Let's say you go home from work and you're home alone. Right away, thoughts get busy and you start feeling anxiety, or you start feeling lonely, and they tell you, oh, you got to call somebody. Don't call anyone, or don't turn the TV on. Don't have distraction right away. You'll see what hell is. Most people cannot live with self. They have to be distracted by thoughts, which are evil and not their own, or some type of person around them, or on the phone, invited to the party. If you really want to know hell, sit in a room by yourself just for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and see what really going on inside of you. It would drive you nuts.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. It's one of the most difficult things, I think. It's so funny because it seems like a natural thing to do, but these days it's actually one of the most difficult things to do, is to just sit there alone. But there's a lot of cultural...
The best thing you can do is to sit alone and overcome thoughts and emotions and just watch them go nuts, trying to control you, to make you do something, distract you, so that you don't realize that you are not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, they're not from God, they are evil, all the way evil. And most people don't want to recognize that they're evil, and that's why they can never be free. They are evil and won't admit it.
There's a lot of culture war stuff happening at the moment, Jesse. I don't know if you've noticed, but the right wing seems to be sort of fracturing a little bit. It seems like you've got your Candace Owens and your Tucker Carlson and your Nick Fuentes, who are particularly in that sort of like questioning America's role with Israel. And then you've got the other side, which is your Daily Wire, your PragerU, all these sorts of guys. But then on this side, it's like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes are fighting each other and then fighting Tucker Carlson. There's a lot of like beef going on, and there's a lot of fracturing going on in like the conservative movement.
Right.
Do you identify with a side more than the other, and are you keeping an eye on all this?
I've been hearing about all that, but I don't watch it. But what you got to realize, conservatives, whether Christian conservative or not, are no different than the liberals. They have the same spirit. And that's why the moment you disagree with them, they turn on you just like that. Conservatives don't love each other at all in the same way the liberals don't love each other. The conservative hate the liberals as much as the liberals hate the conservative because being a conservative or calling yourself a conservative Christian doesn't change the heart. The heart has to change from hate to love because anyone that has anger, they judge, they play God. And so I'm not surprised that they're fighting one another because the heart has to change. And when your heart change, you may agree and disagree with issues, but you're not going to be angry at someone because they agree or disagree. But conservatives are no different than the liberal. They just have a different name. That's all. But the spirit is the same.
So do you think that there's any point in debating worldly matters? So, for example, politics, geopolitics, philosophy. Most of the philosophy in the world is just bullshit, if we call it what it is, because
Right.
sometimes it might help you arrive at something that looks like the truth, but most philosophy is ultimately bullshit. Do you think that it's actually worth our while debating philosophy, debating politics, debating culture? If there's a trans woman in the toilet, that sort of thing, do you think that that's worth debating?
Yes, if you could speak to it in a way where you're not trying to win a debate. As long as you're speaking in a way where they're not coming from your ego nature, but you're speaking from being present and just speaking in a way where you're not judging and you're not trying to win a debate. What people don't realize, and I didn't realize this for a long time myself, is that God tell us to lay our weapons down and let the truth fight for us, our battle, right? But when you don't lay that down, you have an ego. And now when you are debating with people, you're trying to prove you're right. They're trying to prove they're right. And they argue and get mad. And all you have are two devils fighting. They may have two different names, conservative or Democrat or liberal or that. But their hearts are wicked. So all you have are two devils fighting. It's like husband and wives who fight. It's just two devils fighting, trying to prove that they're right, and they want what they want. It's not about you. It's not about them, your children. It's about you getting what you want. So it's just two devils fighting. But there's a way to debate without trying to win.
Well, I think that there's definitely like a good point to be made there. I mean, even sometimes when I've had various debates in the past, you do have to ask, am I doing this for like an entertainment sake and for like a spectacle and to win the debate and to put on a show, which does happen sometimes. And I do that because, debate for me is like a sport as well, if we're debating ideas. But at other times, I also do think that this is a very important issue and I would like to win this. I would like us to win this issue. I would like us to win this election, the Great White Hope, for example, better than Kamala Harris. I see some of the elections happening around the world, and I want these other Christian European countries to have more conservative leaders. So the cultural issues, I don't want them reading sexualized things to kids in classrooms. You don't want there to be mass immigration, the border open. So I want victory. Is that acceptable to want victory in that situation?
Well, it's natural to want your home protected, meaning that you don't want your door wide open and everyone just walk in, right? So they should put a wall around the border. They should have security at the border to protect the body, to protect the people. As long as you don't hate them for wanting to come, because I know that they want to come here because we're the best, right? So they not gonna want it, but that doesn't mean you hate them or you don't just let them in just because they want to come. And so that's natural. But as long as you don't have a judgment of them, right? Don't resent them, but yet speak the truth about reality. We should be safe in America first. We should put the American people first. People should not be allowed to come to our country and get free health care, free education. I heard the other day, I talked about it on my show, a report that over 40 million people in America are relying on the government. Think about all that money coming out of my paycheck and the working class paycheck. That's not right. That's evil. you're hurting the people that you're taking care of in that way because they're not going to get up and do for themselves. And then you're hurting the taxpayer because now they have to work harder to make more money for themselves and their family. So that's not good. But I want you to know is that prior to Donald Trump getting in office and becoming president, the Republican Party was no different than the Democratic Party. They were all about themselves. They were not trying to shut down the borders. They were for illegals coming in for cheap labor and all that kind of stuff. So it's only because of Donald Trump that the job is being done as well as it's being done. So I don't give credit to the Republican Party at all. I give it to Donald Trump.
But in order
Amazing,
for
huh?
yeah, it is amazing. But in order for him to have won, there was political debates where he made Joe Biden look like an absolute fool. Charlie Kirk was going around and winning all of the swing states and getting people to vote. You had all different kinds of debaters all around the internet making liberals look like fools and making their ideas look foolish. If you look at all the practical applications that need to be actually put in place in order for somebody like Donald Trump to win, for me, that gives a lot of utility to debate, for example, and to dropping flyers and all of these things that they do to win elections. So, like, I guess bringing it back to the idea of debate, it's like I think that there's a real place for worldly debate if you actually want to secure these outcomes.
Absolutely. Donald Trump was a perfect example of perfect debate. He did it with humor. He did it with seriousness. He sometimes called Crooked Hillary Cricket or Pessernet, what other guy name? He did it with love and not with hate. So there is a time for debate, but you have to do it not trying to win. And if you do it by not trying to win, you cannot lose. But if you're trying to win, your ego is gonna get involved, and you're gonna try to win, you're gonna end up losing.
What does Charlie Kirk's assassination represent for you?
First, I want to tell you this real fast. When Charlie was assassinated, the Christians started holding rallies and different things. And I remember seeing a visual where the Christians were holding and they were praying to God and they were like, oh, they were loving the Lord, right? And somebody went through that crowd on a motor scooter, one of those scooter things. And he said, F Charlie Kirk, something like that. And the Christians stopped praying, forgot about God, and attacked the man, physically attacked him and beat him up. I'm like, how can you go from love to hate like that, right? If they had perfect love, the guy would have gone through that same crowd and yelled F Charlie Kirk, and they would have understood that it wasn't him that's doing that, but it was the evil inside of him that caused him to do it. And they would not have agreed with it, but they would not have attacked him at all because they would have had love for the man that was asleep. But they attacked the man right there in the crowd. They forgot about God. Isn't that amazing?
It is, but at the same time, I do think like I don't know if you would have seen this, but in the TV show Vikings, there's that scene where the Vikings come and they go into the monastery there, and then they've got a big sword, and the Christian guy gets on his knees and starts praying to God and just saying, God will save me, and then the Viking just chops his head off. So at what point does a Christian actually sort of need to stand up to dust off his knuckles and fight?
Well, when you're about to be attacked physically, you have to protect your body physically, right? So you need to fight back then, protect yourself in that way. But there's no other reason to fight. There's nothing else to fight for. And then even if you have to fight physically to protect yourself, you should do it without anger. That way you will stay aware. You will see the person you're fighting. You will see how to win the fight. But if you fall to anger, you go unconscious and you can't really see how to fight in the right way. So
What's funny about that? From the boxing background, that's actually really good advice if you ever give that to a boxer, because the guys who always lose are the ones who see red and they have they're not conscious at all, and they will be they'll be like throwing punches in anger, and they'll get hit and then they'll have an emotional reaction. The best fighters are always the ones that are cool, calm, and collected and not actually fighting through anger. They're actually being tactical. So it might sound a bit foreign to people listening to this, but that's actually a really good principle when it comes to combat sports, is don't get angry.
Other than fighting to protect yourself in a physical way, what other reason is there to fight? What are you fighting for? And what is it that you're trying to protect if you're not protecting yourself physically? What other reason there need to be a fight?
I guess honor would be the only other reason. Like if somebody's like really besmirching your honor or the honor of your family or something like that, and you feel as though there needs to be a preemptive strike.
What is honor?
Honor is, I guess it's the, I don't know. Honor is kind of hard to explain. It's just like if you come up to me and it's like your self-respect, I guess, something like that. It's like who you are, somebody really besmirching who you are, your character, your self-respect, your family, that is all sort of encompassed in honor.
But I don't understand how. I don't know what honor is, and I'm sorry, I'm black and slow. What is honor? I don't know what that is.
Let me pull up an actual definition for you so that we can actually, rather than me trying to give a definition. The quality of knowing and doing what is morally right or it's like your respect or your esteem. I don't know. It's kind of a hard one.
So maybe
an individual honor.
Maybe just as this.
Individual honor is the quality of a person's adherence to moral principles, often defined by a combination of personal integrity, social reputation, and adherence. So yeah. So I guess it's like kind of your like reputation for your integrity, your adherence to specific codes of conduct. And this is sort of like why people were chivalrous back in the day. It's like the knights would go to duel for honor, you know? They wouldn't want to have.
What is reputation?
I guess how you're perceived.
But that's just an illusion.
It is, but it's one of those things though, what we're talking about before in terms of like when is it worthwhile to actually defend or debate or fight in terms of what is worldly? It is a worldly thing. It is an illusion, but it exists. The illusion exists.
If honor and this idea of self-respect is just a thought, an illusion, why would you fight over an illusion? It's not real anyway. It's just a false idea that you have about yourself, and you're just trying to protect an illusion, a false idea. But if you
at the same time
that way, there's nothing to fight for.
But so is an election, though. An election is an illusion, isn't it?
It's an illusion in that it come and go. But if you're running for office or you're helping someone else, you don't need to fight about that. You need to get out there and do what you need to do physically, right? Put out the information, pass out the flyers, give the talk. But it's not worth fighting for in that way. You can take it a little bit.
Well, Jesse, it's been an hour. I would love to keep you here all day and talk about it. Obviously, it's always good catching up with you. But before you go, I need to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Does a chicken have lips?
No, and she have beep.
Okay. And what are you, alpha male or beta male?
That's a good question. I don't think of myself either way now. I really don't see myself in that way at all.
Right. And is Destiny an alpha male or beta male?
Destiny?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time. I got to get him back on my show.
If it was the same as you last time you saw him.
The thing I like about him, appreciate about him, is that he'll show up anywhere, anytime, for any debate. He doesn't seem to run from that kind of stuff at all. So I do respect that about him. All
right, Jesse, we're just trying to get I'm trying to get a beta male out of you. So can you give us one beta male?
Beta. Don't be a beta male. Any man that has anger is a woman, so he's a beta.
Perfect. And what's wrong with the blats?
Angry, out of control, jealous, too much mama. They haven't totally identified with their mothers, so they have the mother spirit all the way.
All right. And Jesse, do you know God?
Do I know God? Yes.
How?
I can see him.
With your eyes?
No, not my physical eyes.
Right. All right. Well, Jesse, like I said, we're going to be over in LA next week now. So
Nice.
we got to come back through to the Fallen State. You guys are always extremely hospitable when I come through there. So it's always good to catch up with you, man. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you've got coming up.
I appreciate that. I look forward to having you back in the studio next week. They need to check out my coffee. I have my own coffee now. I grew up on a plantation, but I didn't get the coffee from there. And it's called Punchie's Coffee, Punchie Coffee. And we have our women's forum every Thursday night of the month, and men's forum every first Thursday night of the month, and our Sunday fellowship for all. Go to rebuildingtheman.com, rebuildingtheman.com, or jesseleepeterson.shop, jesseleepeterson.shop, or the Fallen State.tv, the FALLEN, the Fallen State, STATE.tv. This has been amazing, man.
It's always a pleasure. Absolutely amazing to catch up again, Jesse. I'm looking forward to seeing you again.
Do you create your own thoughts?
Jesse, you can't give me that as we're leaving, bro. No, I don't. I don't think that I do. But I think that it's like creating food. You get all the ingredients, and you can put the ingredients together, and you can make a sandwich. But the ingredients already existed.
Amazing. Thank you for having me on, and I'll hopefully see you next week.
All right. Take care, Jesse. See you later.
All right, buddy.